Assalamualaikum and hello my dear people. This is Abdul Haseeb and you're watching my YouTube channel. Today I have brought up a training session regarding electrical safety program, which is very much interesting for all of you guys. So without wasting any further moment, let's jump into training session and enjoy.
Getting things done on a busy work site requires plenty of energy, and a lot of that energy is electrical. Electricity powers most of the tools and equipment that you use. It lights your work area, it can even help keep you cool on the job. But using electricity all the time makes it easy to forget that it can cause simple shocks, burns, easy electrocution. Every year, hundreds of deaths and injuries in the construction industry are caused by electricity. But most of these incidents could have been prevented. In this program, we will discuss the hazards of electricity, the standards that have been established to protect you from those hazards. Electricity helps us to accomplish a lot, but when it gets out of control due to faulty equipment or unsafe work practices, electricity can also create serious hazards. More than 100 construction workers are killed by electricity each year, making electrocution the fourth leading cause of death in the construction industry. And construction workers suffer more than half of the electrical injuries that occur on the job. To address these hazards, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration (OSHA) has established electrical safety standards for construction as well as for general industry. These standards are based on the National Electric Code (NFPA 70E), created by the National Fire Protection Association. One of the things the OSHA regulations emphasize is the importance of employee training. Workers are required to receive training on the electrical hazards that they encounter on a job site, as well as their employer's responsibility to provide protection from those hazards. OSHA has defined 6 general types of electrical hazards. To make them easy to remember, their initials spell out the phrase "be safe." B stands for burns, which are a common shop-related injury. They can be caused by exposure to electric current, being close to an arc flash, or contact with a surface that's been heated by an electrical overload. E stands for electrocution, which means being killed by exposure to a lethal amount of electricity. S stands for shock. Shock occurs when electricity courses through part of your body. A stands for arc flash, violent electrical explosion that occurs when an electrical system is disturbed, so that the energy suddenly leaps through the air like lightning arc. Flashes are particularly dangerous since they can create heat as high as 35,000 degrees Fahrenheit, light that is bright enough to burn the skin, deafening noise, and a pressure wave or arc blast that can break bones, damage internal organs, and blow a person across the room. F stands for a fire, which can be caused by cords, wiring, receptacles, and switches that are faulty or overloaded by too much current. E stands for explosions. These can occur when electricity creates sparks that ignite explosive or flammable vapors or dusts in the air. That's a pretty grim list, but to help you avoid these hazards, OSHA has also identified the most common ways that construction workers can be exposed to them on a job site. So you will need to know how to protect yourself. The list includes contact with overhead power lines, contact with energized sources such as exposed electrical components and faulty or damaged equipment and tools, and the improper use of extension cords and electrical connectors. The amount of electricity carried by a high voltage power line can range from 120 to 3/4 of a million volts. So the first time you touch one is usually the last. Accidental contact with overhead power lines on job sites is a major cause of electrocution among construction employees. So OSHA has established specific safety standards to address this hazard. About 20% of power line electrocutions occur when workers themselves touch a power line, but even more occur when the tools and materials that they are carrying or the equipment they are operating Either touch the lines or get a little too close to them. If you are carrying an aluminium ladder or a length of rebar, operating a boom crane or dump truck, or working from a man lift, you can be killed by electricity jumping to them than to you. Even if a metal ladder just gets too close to a power line, it can act just like a lightning rod, so you should always use ladders that are made of a non-conductive material such as fiberglass when working around utility lines. While power lines do have protective coatings, they are there to protect the wires from the weather. They won't protect you from the electricity in the lines. So whenever possible, arrangements should be made with the utility company that operates the lines that are on a job site to de-energize and ground them if they cannot power down the lines. They may be able to install insulated sleeves over them to provide some degree of protection, but for live power lines it is also critical to determine how much voltage is being carried in the lines. That number will tell you how far you need to stay away from the lines to avoid electrocution. If you don't know the voltage in a line, you should assume that it's enough to kill you and stay at least 10 feet away. When you do know the voltage, you can use the table in OSHA's electrical safety standards to determine the safe working distance. This distance increases as the voltage increases. Flagged warning lines, caution tape and signs should always be set up to mark both horizontal and vertical safety limits around overhead power lines. High visibility markings, spotters, barricades and other devices should also be used to prevent vehicles and equipment from getting too close to them. If you ever have questions about how to work safely around overhead power lines, ask your supervisor. Construction work is demanding on both people and equipment. It can cause serious wear and tear in electrically powered hand tools and extension cords, as well as the receptacles that they plug into. Cords fray, insulation cracks and parts wear, break or get lost. Unauthorized alterations and amateur repairs can make things even worse. Eventually, tools and equipment that used to be safe expose workers to shocks, burns and electrocution. But you can avoid these hazards by following the safe work practices that are included in OSHA's electrical safety standards. These begin with a careful inspection of electrical equipment before you use it. Check tools for cracked housing, loose or missing parts, and rust or corrosion. Inspect the tool's power cords for fraying, cracked insulation, and exposed wires. If you find problems with a tool, do not use it. Take it out of service and replace it. When using electrical tools, you should always follow the operating instructions that have been provided by its manufacturer. Also remember to never carry a tool by its cord. Keep your fingers away from on-off switch until you are ready to use it. Unplug the tool before changing blades or bits or performing other maintenance, and put the tool away unplugged in a dry place when you are done. Before using extension cords, you should inspect them for fraying, damaged insulation and exposed wires as well. Only heavy-duty grounded cords with 3-prong plug should be used on a work site. Never use homemade or makeshift extension cords made with Romex wire or receptacle boxes that were designed to be mounted on studs in a wall. To avoid damaging electrical cords, you should protect them from rough surfaces and sharp edges. Excessive strain and heat and exposure to oil, which can degrade the insulation. Never yank on a cord to remove its plug from a receptacle. Pull on the plug itself. And never remove the ground prong from a plug or use an adapter as a quick and easy way to connect a 3-prong plug to an ungrounded 2-prong outlet. Proper grounding helps protect you from being injured or killed by stray electricity. If you find a grounded plug with a 3rd prong removed, or adapter being used without the ground wire connected to the receptacle, take that equipment out of service at once. You should also avoid plugging multiple cords into a single receptacle. Drawing too much current can overload the circuit, heat up the wiring and possibly start a fire. A receptacle that is missing its faceplate can expose you to live wires and other energized parts as well. If you encounter one of these, don't plug anything into it until a faceplate has been installed. Since construction work can take you to a variety of different types of work sites, it is important to remember that water can increase electrical hazards since it conducts electricity. Water that gets on or into electrical equipment can lead to ground faults, shocks, burns, and worse. So you should avoid using electrically powered tools or extension cords in wet or damp conditions. If you must work in the wet, be sure the tools you use are double insulated and never plug in anything that has water on it or in it. Finally, if you are going to use portable electric tools and cords outside, make sure beforehand that they are rated for outdoor use. Most of the time, electricity flows in circular systems called circuits, but if something interferes with the circuit, such as when an extension cord frays and exposes a live wire, the energy will try to find the shortest and easiest path to the earth, which is called ground. Electricity jumping out of a circuit to ground is called ground fault. If the current surges through part of your body on its way to the earth, ground fault can cause shocks, burns, even electrocution. To protect construction workers from these hazards, OSHA's electrical safety standards require employers to implement an Assured Equipment Grounding Conductor Program (AEGCP) on their job sites, or to equip the sites with devices called Ground Fault Circuit Interrupters (GFCIs). To understand how these two options reduce electrocution hazards, it helps to know a little more about grounding. One way to protect people from being electrocuted by electricity that is trying to jump to ground by going outside of the equipment that they are using is to provide a safe path to ground on the inside of the devices. Power tools, cords, and receptacles that have this feature are called grounded equipment and will always have 3 prongs on their plugs or 3 holes in the receptacles. If problems cause any electricity to leak in equipment that is grounded, it should jump to this internal ground, but to make sure that this happens, the internal ground connection has to be continuous. Continuous means it has no gaps or restrictions that could prevent the stray energy from flowing easily all the way to the earth. This is where the Assured Equipment Grounding Conductor Program or AEGCP comes in. An employer that chooses this option must create and implement a program to ensure that the ground connections on each of their job sites are continuous. The program designates qualified personnel who test the tools, equipment, cords, wiring, and connectors for grounding continuity on an ongoing basis. A copy of the written program must be made available on each job site, and results of the testing must also be kept on file. However, on some job sites, it may not always be possible to ensure that a continuous ground connection is available in all areas or for all equipment. So as an alternative to an assured grounding program, OSHA also allows employers to protect against ground fault hazards by using ground fault circuit interrupters or GFCIs. GFCIs can provide protection against leaking electricity and short circuits without a continuous ground connection program. Built into receptacles and extension cords, GFCIs monitor the flow of current in the line so they can sense when the electricity is trying to jump to ground. Then they act like circuit breakers, cutting off the power in as little as 1/40th of a second. This prevents the stray electricity from damaging anything or anyone. GFCIs can also be built into the breakers on a main fuse panel to protect workers from ground fault hazards on entire circuits. Swapping out drill bits or saw blades, cleaning and lubricating moving parts, performing any of the maintenance or repair tasks that are electrically powered equipment can require throughout the day. To accomplish any of these things safely, you first need to shut off the electricity that powers the equipment, and the electricity has to stay off while the work is being done. Switching the power back on could seriously injure, even kill the person servicing the machine, either because of the sudden flow of electrical current or the moving parts that it sets in motion. To prevent this from happening, OSHA's electrical safety standards require workers to follow lockout tagout procedures. so that when power is shut off, it cannot be restored until it is safe to do so. So lockout tagout begins with identifying all of the sources of energy through the equipment that needs to be serviced and determining how they should be shut off. This includes any backup power sources such as generators and batteries. All workers who will be affected by the shut-off, such as other employees who use the machinery or the power from the circuit that it's on, should be informed that a lockout tagout is being performed as well. The energy sources should be turned off and locks applied to secure the switches in the off position. Only dedicated lockout tagout locks should be used for this purpose. Padlocks that just happen to be available are not permitted. In some situations, several people can be involved in locking out power sources. In these cases, each of them should apply their own locks. Special lockout devices are made that allow multiple locks to be attached to a single switch. The equipment that is being worked on and its electrical circuitry should then be tested by a qualified person to verify that the power is truly off. OSHA defines a qualified person as a worker who is familiar with the construction and operation of the equipment, as well as the hazards that can be associated with it. The qualified person should also release any electrical energy that has been stored in the equipment, such as in charged capacitors. Once the equipment is completely de-energized, a special tag should be filled out and attached to the switch along with a lock. The tag explains that lockout tagout procedures are in effect, why the equipment has been powered down, and who is involved in the process. At this point, the maintenance or other service tasks can be performed safely. When the work on the equipment is complete and all workers are physically clear of the equipment, the qualified person will determine if it's safe to restore power. Tags and locks can then be removed. When multiple locks have been used, each of them must be unlocked by the person who originally applied them. The power can then be turned back on. Even if you are not personally involved in performing lockout tagout, you can help to ensure the safety of your co-workers by remembering this. If you encounter a power source that has been locked out, you should never attempt to remove the lock or turn anything on. As we have seen, electricity can create serious hazards on a construction work site, but there are ways to prevent any incidents from occurring. Let's review. Electrocution is one of the leading causes of death among construction workers. To address electrocution and other electrical hazards, OSHA has established electrical safety standards for the construction industry. OSHA has also identified the top 3 causes of electrocution on construction work sites: contact with high voltage power lines, contact with energized parts due to faulty or damaged tools in equipment, and the misuse of electric cords and connectors. OSHA safety standards require employers to protect their employees from electrical hazards on the job. The standards also include safe work practices that employees should know and follow whenever they work with or around electricity. Now that you understand the hazards that electricity can create on a construction site and know the equipment and procedures we should use to prevent accidents and injuries, you can help to ensure that you and your co-workers go home safe at the end of every day.
I hope you like this training session, because in this training session I have tried to cover all the basic knowledge regarding electricity. For more interesting videos, please hit the red subscribe button and press the bell icon. That's all for today's video. Love you and God bless you.